Rajas. Rajas means dust. When the mind is dusty, which means then it is restless, agitated, extrovert. And third is tamas. Tamas means darkness. When the mind is dark, lethargic, with no motivation, no initiative, that is the tamas. So Lord Krishna says that there are as though three kinds of happiness. Happiness coming from sattva, happiness coming from rajas, happiness coming from tamas. We describe happiness coming from sattva is when the mind becomes sattvic, becomes transparent, reflects the happiness which is our own self. Therefore, the sattvic sukha, happiness which is called sattvic, is really the happiness coming from the tranquility of the mind or coming from the self-knowledge. So tranquility of the mind, automatically when the mind is tranquil, it is placid, cheerful. It is happy for no reason at all. So when you are happy, why am I happy? I'm just happy. When you find this, that is the sattvikam sukham. When I'm happy for some reason, because my friend called, because I got promotion, because of some reason, that is the rajasam sukham. Sukham, happiness born of rajas, coming from a source other than myself. It's binding happiness. It is temporary or fleeting happiness, binding happiness. And it slowly stays on to enslave me. So, if I am engaged all the time in getting happiness coming from rajas, meaning coming from sources other than myself, then I become more and more dependent upon them, which therefore ultimately results into unhappiness. Begins with happiness, results into unhappiness. Sattvic sukha begins with little bit pain, results into lasting happiness. And third is happiness coming from tamas. What is that happiness? A lot of work is there in front of me. And I'll do it tomorrow morning. So the relief that a person has on account of letting go, it is not, so it is more a delusion of happiness rather than real happiness. So, Lord Krishna says that yadagre chanubande cha sukham mohanamahatmanah nidra lasya pramadottam tattama samudavratam. Happiness that one feels because of sleep, because of laziness, a lot of things that have been done, I'm not doing it. Or pramada. Rather than doing what I need to do, I do something else, distract myself. That happiness is more a delusion of happiness rather than true happiness. It's a waste of time. So happiness coming from the self, happiness coming from non-self, happiness coming from delusion that I'm happy. Sattvic, Rajas and Tamas. These three forms of happiness Lord Krishna describes, so that we recognize the happiness which we are experiencing and try to convert it into sattvic happiness. So happiness that comes by eating is rajas, comes by feeling is sattvic. Happiness that comes by grabbing, taking away something, maybe tamas, Some people are happy because somebody is unhappy. Some person is happy because he is happy. Some person is happy because someone else is happy. So if happy because someone is unhappy, tamas. I'm happy because of some reason, rajas. I'm happy because of someone else's happiness, sattvic. gurus and lots of groups of gurus and mystics are bringing the awareness of conscious alert living into the world today. One such group is the Isha Foundation. Please give your remarks. Thank you. I have not visited that foundation, unfortunately, nor have I attended any of their programs or retreats, so I am not informed about the activities and what they do, so I can't make a comment. Please help to understand bondage. You quoted Swami Viditatmananda. There is no real bondage. This is the quote, unquote. And yet, one is overwhelmed by emotions where children, grandchildren are concerned. When it comes to our own children and grandchildren, then you get overwhelmed by emotions. What can help one handle these golden chains? Naturally, person is talking about the attachment that one has for the children, attachment that one has for grandchildren, and when there is attachment, they become source of joy for you, and then they will also become source of anxiety. So something that gives me happiness can also become the cause of unhappiness. So if this thing or anything like this generates happiness in me because it is like this, will generate unhappiness when it becomes like that, So my child also, when it behaves in a certain way, I'm happy. When it talks back to me, unhappy. Or because there is attachment for my child, then there is an unseen chain that binds me. Because my mind becomes preoccupied with the thoughts of the child, and child goes to school, he must be all right, I guess, these days schools are this, that and whatnot. If a child comes 10 minutes late, what happened? So that causes anxiety. That attachment also causes fear and anxiety. What will happen? Because the well-being of the child is important for my well-being. And therefore I am concerned as to, is the child all right? Why is it late? And then he say, don't go in the evening, don't go to this place, because if he goes there, there is safety, then I am unsafe. So for my own sake, then slowly I start controlling those to whom I am attached. So attachment slowly brings about control. Because the person to whom I am attached, that person's actions become so important for my happiness that if that person does a given thing, I'm happy, does something else, I'm unhappy. If that person is safe, I'm happy, not safe, I'm unhappy. So my mind keeps on dwelling about unsafety also, and therefore I say, hey, don't go in the evening, don't drive beyond a certain point, don't go to that place, don't get married to this, etc. So we find ourselves controlling the very people whom we love. When that results into attachment, which slowly becomes stronger and stronger, creating more and more insecurity in me. Because that which is the source of happiness and security, I imagine some conditions when it may not be like this, and I'm apprehensive, become insecure just by thought. So I don't want that to happen. I don't want a child not to be here. I don't want him not to be safe, etc., etc. And therefore, I start controlling the child. Do this, don't do that. Because what the child does is important for my happiness. Don't get married to this one. Get married to this one. Don't go to engineering school. Go to medical school, etc., etc. So this is how we slowly slip into the so-called attachment, which brings about insecurity, which brings about apprehensions, insecurity, and slowly the control. That in my so-called love, I sometimes strangulate the other person, do not give them the freedom to be what they are. All this can happen if you are not attentive. So we do find this kind of relationship existing in many places, where husband controls wife, wife controls husband. Why is anyway? Meaning that the son that is dear to me, I find myself controlling so that it remains dear to me. It doesn't in any way doesn't have the freedom to be other than that it is not, it cannot behave in a manner which I do not like. Because my happiness, I become more and more sensitive, more and more demanding, and so more and more controlling. This is a slippery path. And so watch out. That love is one thing, attachment is another thing. In love, there is freedom. In attachment, there is demand, expectation. Meaning that I am happy because this person satisfies my expectation. Therefore I am happy. Not for what the person is, but because the person is favorable to me. What is love? When I can enjoy the person as the person is. There is no pure love. This is an ideal thing that I enjoy without any expectation. There is always some attachment in every relationship. But we should watch out the element of attachment and try to see that it does not overwhelm me. I do not get so attached, so dependent, so demanding, that I become very sensitive to every movement of that person. Everything that person does then affects me. Now, you should not allow the relationship to deteriorate to that point. That's what it is. And so, grandchildren, fine, enjoy them. That's the joy of life. Children and grandchildren are meant for enjoyment. Enjoy them. At the same time, give them freedom also. By freedom, I do not mean that we become indifferent to them, that we don't care for them. That's not what we mean by freedom. That we are able to enjoy them as they are. That if they do a given thing, I am happy. Do not do a given thing, I am happy. Difficult, but that's an ideal situation. Our relations are in between somewhere. May not be pure love, may not be total attachment, in between. So we should recognize the attachment element in every relationship. And some attachment is okay. Because without attachment, I can't care for somebody. So I am motivated to care for somebody, take care of some man, there is an attachment. But it should be a limit where my care does not result into my demand. What did you do for me? That's what I did for you. What did you do for me? Parents also become very disappointed when children grow up and then parents find that they don't care for them. I had great hopes for my son that when he grows up, then he'll take care of me. Doesn't do that. His wife has come. He has now become his wife's person. No more he just cares for the parents. Stuff like that. It may be so. It could very well be so. But the fact that something gives me disappointment because some appointment expectation was always there. We are all human, therefore expectations are there, but we should watch out in relationship that what is the expectation element. And I should know that I should be ready for a situation when my expectation is not fulfilled, that I do not become hurt, I do not feel rejected, or I do not reject the other person because my expectation is not fulfilled. It's not a tall order. A Swami can say, because he's no children and no grandchildren, nothing, Swami, you can say all this, maybe. But you are where you are. That being the case, we have to learn to manage our relationships. Freedom in relationship. Where is freedom? The extent to which the relationship is non-demanding, to that extent there is freedom. The extent to which the relationship becomes demanding, it becomes a bondage. And so, we have to watch out in every relationship. It begins on a good footing, but slowly we become accustomed to it, and then we slip into attachment. Even relation with this chair. Every day I sit on the chair, it's a nice chair, comfortable. Now if you change the chair, next day, what is that? Where is that chair? Swami, is even better. No, I want that chair. So we get attached to even chairs and tables and stuff like that. Then where is the question of attachment to human beings and dogs and cats? Of course it will happen. But that way dogs and cats and pets are safe. Because even there is no expectation. Meaning that a dog, I am able to feel the love of the dog without any expectation. That's the advantage there. That happens with my infant child also. That I am happy with my child. The infant by its very presence makes me happy. There is no expectation. It's only when they start growing up, when the terrible two comes, and when he starts feeling a sense of individuality, and then starts questioning. Why? When he starts doing that, why should I do that? Why should I not do that? Etc. Then the parent feels rejected. This child is rejected, he doesn't care for me, does not obey me, is not an obedient child. In this culture there is no obedience. In India we all grew up with obedience. And so whatever parents say, that's what we did. Don't do that, we did not do that. I am not saying it's right, wrong, and that's how it is. Good, bad or indifferent. Here they are taught. The individuality is given importance here. You decide. You do what you think is right. Not what somebody tells you. Question what you are told. There we don't question what we are told. We do what we are told. In fact, elders formally used to say that do what we tell you to do, not what we do. Don't do what we do what we tell you to do. They reserve that kind of freedom for themselves that they need not necessarily live up to what they say or what they expect, but they continue to expect from others. But now that things are different, there is no such thing as obedience and there is no such thing as reverence. We grew up with reverence, obedience, which has some advantages and some disadvantages. No obedience, no reverence has some advantages and disadvantages. Any strong, rigid position is going to have both. Best is to have the combination of both. Obedience also and freedom also. Obedience not to such an extent that I become a slave, I stop thinking and I just swallow whatever I am told, not to that extent. But then independence not to such an extent that I just don't bother or I don't even consider what is being told. So there must be a combination of both, best of both. Anyway, we come back to the relationship, where we grow with the training of being independent, then two independently thinking, independently behaving people have to relate to each other is going to require a lot more maturity than a person who can become obedient. It doesn't matter whether husband is obedient to wife or wife to husband. That is a good thing. Doesn't matter who. Then it works well. But if both are assertive, nothing wrong in being assertive. But we should have the discrimination to let go of my assertion when necessary. The assertiveness should not be to the extent that it affects my relationship. Assertiveness comes from my ego, from my likes and dislikes. Assertiveness means asserting my likes and dislikes, meaning controlling other person. I like this and so you should do that. I don't like, so you should not do that. And likes and dislikes, there is an expectation, there is a demand. And we should know this. And when we find that now it's cracking up, it's showing some strain and stress, then retain the relationship and let go of the likes and dislikes. Let go of the demands. That's the way to do things. That way, as our Swami used to say, that marriage makes makes yogis out of both the persons. You have to be yogi to be related to somebody in marriage in particular. You are stuck with each other 24 hours a day. Elsewhere, at least there is some distance. Friend, evening you are at your home, I am at my home, and so still there is some distance. I need not meet you every day. Here you are stuck with each other 24 hours a day. Which is good, which is demanding also. And so I think that is the most demanding relationship, and that is between the spouses. It is the most rewarding relationship also. At the same time, most demanding also. Demanding because it requires me to let go. And let go. Without feeling exploited. Without feeling hurt. I willingly let go. Because for me, the relationship is more important than my likes and dislikes. A freedom to retain my likes and dislikes. Each one can do, as long as they do not come in the way of the harmony in relationship. Then, if both the persons have a commitment that our relationship is more important than ourselves, meaning our harmony is more important than our likes and dislikes, and I'm willing to let go, then both grow. Because we never lose anything by giving up likes and dislikes. Giving up ego means giving up license. We never lose, we always gain. We feel we are losing. Why should I do that? Why should I give up? Etc. But if I willingly do that, there is no problem. I do because somebody wants me to do, then there is a sense of being dominated, controlled, compelled. Then it is not willingly done. If I willingly let go, there is freedom. If I am made to let go, there is bondage. Each one should have that commitment. It cannot be a one-way street. Both must do this. Then none of them feels exploited. So one person keeps on giving up. That way in India, the women keep on giving up. There is no choice. There is no economic freedom, no social freedom, no freedom at all. They are totally dependent. When they leave home and come to husband's home, and then that door is also closed. There is nowhere to go. But fortunately, there is changing now. But there is some advantage that you had to put up with the thing one way or the other, and so it went on. The relationship went on. Now I did not put up, and so they are breaking apart also. So each one has some advantage, some disadvantage. But this golden chain is watch out in every relationship and see, am I slowly expecting things, demanding things, becoming dependent, then it's a chain. A relationship is not a chain. Just because I have children or grandchildren doesn't mean they are chains. But when I become dependent upon them, that their mood, their well-being, what they do, everything affects me, then it is a chain. Then I'm not giving them the freedom. So watch out that element. Let go the attachment and enjoy the relationship. Easier said than done. All I have to do is to say, and you have to do. That's the advantage of a Swami, being a Swami. What is the benefit of chanting Ram, 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 Ram? Ram is the name of God. So what's the advantage, benefit of chanting Ram, Ram, Ram? Is it for dharma or sense of love and harmony? It depends upon the purpose for which you are chanting. Lord Krishna says, whatever my devotees want from me is what I give them. I reward them in the manner in which they pray to me. Ye yathamam prapadyante tam tasaiv vajamyaham. If you are chanting Ram, Ram, Ram for some benefit, that's what you will get. Chanting Ram, Ram, Ram for an expression of devotion, then your devotion will become more mature. Saying Ram, 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 Ram for nothing, let Rama be happy. You be happy for a change. So far you are giving me, I am giving this to you. Without pride. Offering. Meaning that this name can be chanted with variety of purposes. And what's the purpose behind chanting? That purpose may be served. If the chanting is sincere and long enough. So it can be dharma is punya, it can give you punya. Or if you don't even want that, then it can give you love and harmony. How best to overcome the notion that choosing Atma is a life focus and a lifestyle is selfish. Chosen yourself. Which means that you are giving up everything else and you are only stand for yourself. So it sounds like selfish. A residual idea left over from my Catholic upbringing. That basically Hindus are the dharma is considered to be a self, because dharma is centered upon the self. What I should do, what I should not do. And when I perform what we call the virtuous actions, then I earn the punya. So it all seems to center upon I. The duty, the dharma, the righteousness, all of this is centered upon I. And it looks like there is no place for the other in the life, of my life, of duty. And sometimes therefore is interpreted as selfishness. The Hindus have no sense of service. There is no, in Hinduism, there is no seva, no service, no charity, nothing. That is kind of a perception that sometimes is entertained. But it is not so, because what is meant by duty, what is my duty becomes your right. When I am duty bound to you, if you are my parent and I have duty towards my parent, my sibling, my children, my neighbor, or anybody else, the place where I work, my group, my company, then their need becomes more important than my need. If I am duty bound to my parent, then the need of the parent becomes more important than my need. Meaning that in fulfilling their need, I must be willing to let go of my need. So duty is always other focus. The idea of duty is not focused, is not self-centered, it is other-centered. And Hinduism teaches duty towards everything. There are so-called five-fold yajnas or five-fold duties that a person was supposed to perform, which included duty towards all the gods of the nature, duty towards the ancestors, towards the sages and teachers, towards other needy human beings, and towards the animals and creatures also. All of those who are the stakeholders in my life. So duty or dharma always included others. It is not excluding others. So perception that dharma teaches exclusion of others, is centered upon self, is perhaps not right. Now choosing the self that I am choosing is not that individual self or the ego. The self that I am choosing is the self of all. Understand? And that is what is meant by, so self means I am choosing truth. I am wedded to the self, which is self of all, which is truth, which is reality. So it is a commitment of giving up the concern about the limited self and concern about the universal self. So there is no selfishness there also. In fact, we have to let go of the selfishness. So word self is used. So it looks like it is something opposed to non-self. But this self is something that is not opposed to non-self. You follow? Choosing the self, that self is a self which is not opposed to non-self. It is all inclusive self. And that's what I have chosen. And so when you properly understand what the Upanishad is teaching, then you realize that it is not self-centered. At the same time, in our life also a time has to come when we have to also take care of ourselves. It is true that it is my duty to take care of others. At the same time, I should also take care of myself. If I do not take care of myself, then I become incapable of performing the duty because myself does not cooperate with me. Even in the process of serving the world, I don't take care of my body, my health, and then the very body with which I do things doesn't cooperate with me. So in that sense also there has to be a balance between others and myself. That we have to take care, not become obsessed with the self, not become preoccupied with the self. At the same time, take care of the self so that it remains a fit instrument to do what I need to do. That should not be called selfishness because the purpose of taking care of the self is so that I can use that self to do what I am required to do for others. What is the Vedantic significance of performing ancestral puja, tarpanam? In the Vedas, every householder is required to perform 5 kinds of offerings every day. This is fulfilling the 5-fold debt that I have or the 5-fold duties that I have. Because there are 5 kinds of living beings in the universe. One are the living beings who are called devatas, they live up in heaven. Second are the ancestors who live in the middle world, world of mains. Third are human beings that live in this world. So I am the recipient of what all these three kinds of beings are doing. Fourth are my teachers and sages. And fifth are the rest of the nature. So all of these have a stake. All of them contribute to my life. Therefore, I must also return that favor. Therefore, one of the things that I do is to perform my duty towards ancestors. Who are ancestors? The departed souls. Where are they? Supposedly in that Pitruloka, the intermediate world. Bhuhu is the world that is mortal. Bhuvaha, the world, intermediate world of the ancestors. Suvaha, the world of the devatas or gods. So then you provide them what they require. To devatas we offer various materials of oblations because that's their food. To the ancestors we give them water and sometimes rice balls, etc., which is their food. So this offering supposedly reaches them and helps them sustain their position where they are. It's all a matter of belief. But this is the belief. And here on the earth, I give food and shelter to the needy people. I take care of my teachers by learning and passing on the teaching. I take care of the cows and other animals and creatures who also contribute in my life. So these 5 kinds of offerings or yajnas are prescribed for a householder. One of them is offering to the ancestors because they have an important contribution in my life. Through them, their blood flows in my veins and all their culture also comes to me, and through my parents, I am indebted to them. So I make an offering which supposedly is what they need. And that's all water and rice balls and things like that. So at prescribed times. All matter of belief. So you believe in this thing? Is there a heaven? Is there a world of beings? I have not seen it. Do I believe in it? I have no reason not to believe. You follow what I am saying? Not that they are not in my radar also. That means that I am not planning to go to heaven. I am planning to go to Pitruloka also. At the same time, there is no reason for me to deny them as well, and so I accept them. Please describe the relationship between knowledge, jnanam and bhakti. Knowledge and devotion. So as we saw here in the Upanishad, first stage is devotion which leads to knowledge. In general we say that when can I know something? When that thing becomes favorable to me, when it reveals itself to me, that is when I can know something. If this is what we accept, that when you discover some new things, then also it's that thing which has revealed itself in your mind. So, the object of knowledge reveals itself in your mind when the knowledge takes place. When will it reveal? When it becomes favorable to you. When does it become favorable? When you please it. How do you please? By devotion. So devotion is the means of pleasing the Lord to make Him favorable to me so that He will reveal Himself to me. So even if I want to know Ishvara, He should reveal Himself to me. For that, He should become favorable to me. For that, I should please Him. And for that, bhakti or the devotion is for pleasing the Lord, for achieving His grace, His favor, so that He becomes favorable to give me what I want. If I want knowledge, that's what He'll give. Want something else, that also He can give. Therefore, when you talk of knowledge, which is knowledge of the identity of Jiva and Brahman, bhakti becomes means of knowledge. If you talk of knowledge in terms of the Saguna Brahma, then knowledge becomes means of bhakti. For Nirguna Brahma, bhakti becomes means of knowledge. Since knowledge is in the mind, and mind is limited, how can the mind gain knowledge of the infinite self? Good question. Mind is a limited entity. And what you want to know is self that is limitless. How can the mind know the limitless self? Isn't it? Mind cannot know the limitless self if the mind has to objectify the limitless self. So mind does not know the limitless self by way of objectifying. Mind simply removes ignorance, and the infinite self reveals itself. So knowledge is not the way I know these pots and pans. Yes, I objectify them, and then I know only limited things. He is not objectifying the self, he is removing the ignorance of the self. I think tomorrow we may have a chance to talk about it also. If bondage is only a notion, then is ignorance also a notion? No, bondage is a notion created from ignorance. And therefore knowledge is the removal of ignorance which is in the form of notion. So ignorance manifests in the form of notion, and therefore knowledge is the removal of that notion which is born of ignorance. Is ignorance a notion? Ignorance is cause of notion. Notion is something tangible, which is in our mind. Ignorance is not a tangible thing. It is the cause of that notion. Therefore, inasmuch as ignorance manifests as notion, the removal of ignorance is equal to removal of notion. True. Any other question? No. Yes.
The idea of, well, I've heard it said that sin is always the result of ignorance.
Sin?
Yeah. So this arose in a discussion about when this Paramahansa Yogananda met Ramana Maharshi, and that he asked him, is sin real? Where? So if sin is the result of ignorance, ignorance is the result of Maya. Yeah, it seems like there is a reality of Maya, but Maya is mithya as well. Is this not so?
So what's the question?
So I guess I'm trying to understand this business of sin, and what the power of sin is.
It depends. First of all, depends upon what you mean by sin. I think the meaning in which the word sin is used in Christianity is a technical word. What we mean by sin is nothing but punya and papa, virtue and vice. Both of them are the results of action. Good action produces punya or virtue, and evil action produces papa or vice or sin. So sin, you can say, is the result of an action. Evil action, meaning an action is in violation of the order. An action in keeping with order is called virtuous action. An action violating the order is called vicious action, or sin, which produces pain. So pleasure and pain. Both of these are products of what we call the sense of doership. That I think that I am doing the action. So doer performs the action. And doership is a product of ignorance. In that sense, they are both the products of ignorance. And Maya is not different from ignorance. Maya is not the cause of ignorance. Maya and ignorance essentially are the same. Sometimes they are used interchangeably, or sometimes what belongs to individual is called ignorance, and the cosmic ignorance is called Maya. But basically, they are not essentially different from each other. So ignorance is not product of Maya, it's not product of anything. It's just there. And from that comes a sense of limitedness. From that worship. From that karma. Karma phala, papa, punya, etc. When Christians talk of sin, the original sin, that would be we can equate it to ignorance. The Vedanta talks of original cause of samsara as ignorance. So you can say what is meant by sin, and this is my personal interpretation, is something similar to ignorance. Okay, good. You can shut off this light.
Yeah.